Welcome to the Greenlight Investor for the week ending June 19th, 2015. The goal of the Greenlight Investor is to provide a resource to make managing your 401k both a simple and easy process. We do this by using red, green, and yellow cells in our worksheet to help you decide when to buy, what to buy, and when to sell. This presentation is for educational purposes only and should not be taken as personal investment advice. The examples that I'll be using are examples of how you can use this worksheet to help make investment choices within your 401k. Please refer to your own investment policy to make certain that choices that you make are appropriate for both your investment time horizon as well as your understanding and acceptance for taking on risk in financial markets. With that said, let's go ahead and go right to our worksheet. Each week we update this worksheet and it shows you the general trends of the U.S. equity market, which shows that we have a mild uptrend that's resumed, as well as the international equities, which shows that the uptrend is currently stalling. The worksheet's broken into three different sections. We have the investment choices, which show the fund number, the symbol, the fund name, and a description of the fund. We show the performance of each fund, starting with the closing price each week, the month-to-date return, the quarter-to-date return, and the year-to-date return. And finally, we have the current weekly trend scores, which is a relative strength rating system to help you find which funds are the strongest and which ones are the weakest within the fund choices that are available to you. Let's go back to the investment choices. They start out with the core investments listed at the top. Those are the index funds that are available to you. Then we move into the satellite investments, which include the money market, fixed income funds, U.S. growth and income. We have a good choice of U.S. equity funds, international funds, and sector funds. Each of these has a hyperlink. If you want to do additional research, just click on that and it'll take you to an outside web page where you can do additional research for each of the funds. In the center section we have the performance, and what that does is it lets you see how your funds are doing against other funds within the categories that you select, as well as other funds within the entire worksheet. This helps you keep on track to make sure that you're always staying with the strongest funds and avoiding the weakest funds. And to help you locate which ones are the strongest and which ones are the weakest, we use a relative strength scoring system under the current weekly trends. Down column V is our focal point, or our center column, and it shows you the relative strength change each week. When you see a bright green light, that shows you the funds that have been the strongest on a week-over-week basis. And when you see a red light, the brighter the color, the weaker the fund has been on a relative strength basis on a week-over-week basis. You'll also notice that we keep a rolling tally of these scores on the right side of column V. And in addition to the red cells, which are generally weak, or the green cells, which are generally strong, we show a numerical value, and that will show you the trend or the direction of the trend for each of the funds. When you see the numbers getting smaller, that means the fund is continuing to weaken. When you see the numbers getting stronger, those are the funds that are strengthening on a week-over-week basis. So we help you locate which funds are the strongest and which ones are the weakest. Another feature that makes it visually easy to see how the market condition is when you see a lot of red, such as in here. You generally have very weak funds, and it's a good time to avoid, or at least be aware that those are weak funds. And when you see a general preponderance of green in these cells, those are generally your stronger funds to be in. It'll also give you an early notice when you're starting to see a weakness within a category, because you'll start to see a lot of red cells appear. And likewise, when you start to see green reappear after a series of red cells, those are ones that are starting to gain strength again or starting to resume their uptrend. So a lot of information that's helpful and doesn't take much time to go through. Now let's go ahead and move forward to see how we can use all this information to help manage your 401k. At the top of the worksheet in the ribbon, if you click on View, go over to the Custom Views, click on that, you'll get a drop-down menu. Then simply click on My Current Allocation, which is where you can show which allocations you're currently invested in within your 401k. This is an example. It's not an actual portfolio. It's just a hypothetical example of how you can use this, but we've been tracking this so you can see how to manage this. What I like to do is just slide the slider over and just judge by the cells as to whether it's a good fund to be in or not. Once you decide what it is, then you can slide back and see what the actual name is. But this gives you a very simple way to see which funds are performing well and which ones aren't. Let's go down and take a look at our allocation and see if there's any changes that need to be made this week. We currently have a target allocation of 100% to be invested, and we're showing that we have a 10% allocation to this fund, which is showing a bullish sign in the long-term trend, which by the way is the most important column to look at, and that's followed by a green rectangle in the relative strength side, which we like to have confirming the long-term trend. One thing you'll notice too is that we're seeing a week-over-week strengthening of this, and that's again confirmed by the bright green light. So a lot of information that's easy to obtain. So with that said, there's nothing to do. We just leave this one alone, and most of the time that's what we'll see the general cases. This system helps you just identify big moves, and if there is a reason to make a change, you'll be notified pretty early on this. Our fixed income, we've seen that there's been generally weakness, so we've actually moved out of that and moved into other funds that are showing green lights. So as long as we're seeing red lights, we're going to stay clear of this, but you're actually showing with these green lights that there may be a change, so it gives you an early warning that it may be time to move back into fixed income, or at least keep an eye on that. Next, we'll move to our growth and income funds. And again, we're seeing that with a lot of red last week, we moved out of this. We're seeing one green light. I'd like to wait another week and see that that comes back into strength. So we're not going to do anything to this again. Over here, we're showing that we would like to have 5% allocated to this. We currently have 0%, and we're going to leave that one unchanged also. Next, our U.S. equity funds, we have a 30% allocation. And as we slide down, we'll see that we have a 20% allocation. With the green light to the left and the right of column V, there's nothing to change. We're also seeing that in general, the U.S. equities have been strengthening, and you can see that by the numbers that are increasing on a week-over-week basis. From June 12th through June 19th, generally you're seeing the numbers increase, which shows that this category of funds has been performing fairly well. Our 20% allocation shows a green light and a green light, so there's nothing to do on that. And our 10% allocation, again, shows that there's a green light and a green light, so there's nothing to do in that category. Next, let's go to the international funds. We're showing that we have a 30% allocation, and we currently have 30% invested in this allocation. We have 20%, and we're seeing that there's a green light and a green light, so there's nothing to do there. We're seeing that in general, red lights have appeared, and the numbers are weakening. So if that happens on another week, we may want to make some changes. And again, this can be used as an early warning system just to see if there's any changes. With our 20% allocation, we're seeing that the fund is actually increased in strength, so it's a good fund to be in right now. Let's go to our 10% allocation, and here we're seeing a green light to the left, but we've seen a red light to the right, so that's signaling that there's a change. And in particular, this yellow dot inside is showing that the primary trend may be changing. As long as this is a yellow light here, we're not going to make a change, but we're going to be aware that this has weakened, and if we see another red cell appear next week with a red check mark, such as here, then we'll most likely make a change to this. So again, it gives you an early warning system that there may be a trend change within that category. Finally, let's go ahead and take a look at our sector funds. Here we have a 10% allocation, but because this has been performing fairly well, we've actually taken 5% out of the growth in income, and we've moved it into this category, mostly because we've been seeing more green lights here and the numbers have been pretty good. So we have a 10% allocation that's showing a green light and a green light. We have a 5% allocation that's neutral and having a green light to the right. So again, no changes are needed here. And our 5% allocation is showing a green light and a green light. So once again, there's no changes. So again, this is a real simple and easy way to review your 401k allocations each week. It's not meant to be a trading system. It's simply meant to give you an idea of the long-term trends for each of the funds and make sure that you're staying inside of each of these categories. I always like to use the analogy of a racehorse. The difference between the green light system and a racehorse system is when you're betting on a racehorse, you bet before the race begins and you're not able to change. By using the green light, we're constantly able to see which are the stronger funds to be in, and we're able to make changes to make sure your allocations are staying within these stronger funds and avoiding the weaker funds. That's what I've got for this week. Let's go ahead and go back to our main worksheet. We'll click on the With Performance columns, click Show, and we'll jump back to our main worksheet. That's what I've got for the week. I hope it's been helpful and has given you some ideas and resources for managing your 401k choices. If you'd like to find out more about how the Greenlight Investor can help make sense of your 401k choices, simply visit our website at thegreenlightinvestor.org, or you can always email me and I'd be happy to correspond with you and help you make sense of your 401k selections. Again, I hope you've enjoyed watching this. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a great week.